any problem you have, it's because you have an unmet expectation.
Ooh.
Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Rizo with Mentality Unleashed. We're bringing this is going to be probably my favorite episode, if not the best episode, because I have my friend Glen Allen here. He's the smartest. He's the most brilliant man that I have ever met. And anybody that laughs when they do that, that's when you know, I promise. That is when you, that's when you know. Sorry, I got to stay close to the mic. This is what we're doing at Mentality Unleashed, is what we're trying to do is we're trying to capture what we want in a man. What do we need in men? And how do we shape that? And a lot of it isn't easy stuff, right? What we want to shape, the first thing we want to shape is men who love God.
Yes.
Which is tough. You know, it's easy, but not a lot of people do it.
It's easy, but not a lot of people do. You're correct.
That's probably the best way to say it.
It's not hard to serve God, but most people make it hard.
Yeah. But we want to shape out of that is we want men to love God. But why do we want men to love God? Well, we want them to then love their wives. Then we want them to love their children.
Yes.
Then we want them to love their communities. We want them to be good workers. We want them to go to church.
When it's hard to love your wife if you don't love God first.
Oh, man.
I mean, because I like that one that says, joy, how do you get joy? Jesus first, others second, you're last. If you reverse that any other way, you're messed up.
And that's why I say this many times. The number one reason why people aren't working right now is because of depression.
Yeah.
Like that's the reason why people aren't working. They're not sick. They're not disabled. It's because they're extremely sad. And this is even in countries like Switzerland where they have all the money.
They have everything over there.
They have everything. And there's still, the number one reason why they're not working is depression. Could it be they have that reversed out of order, right? They're not serving their loved ones. They're not serving the Lord. Maybe there's, I don't know, I'm getting into too many things.
No, you're doing good. Sorry. I am going to grab my Bible because I gave someone I was mentoring tonight a verse.
Yeah. Get it, baby. Get it. Because this is what we want to count to is we want to bring everything. We want to not only bring knowledge, intellect, but we want to bring right here the sword.
Well, I mean, I've always said, and you've heard me say it. I mean, God's word, it has all the answers, right?
Oh yeah.
I've always said that.
Well, and this is the thing about this is what we're trying to do is we're really trying to shape people. We want men to not only be engaged, but we want them to love God. But in order to really love God, in order to really be engaged, you got to be in the learning.
You do.
You have to. Can't have one without the other. Go ahead.
Well, this verse is 1 Timothy 6:6. It says, but godliness actually is a means of great gain when accompanied by contentment.
Ooh.
So you can be the godly guy, but if you're not content and you're out doing stuff, you're not following God. I mean, you don't have it down. That's what we're talking about. God's refining you, putting through these tests and these trials, because if he doesn't do that, you're not going to change.
No.
I mean, most guys, we don't change unless we got some pain.
I think that's where it shapes even James. I love the way James shapes it, is he talks about in order to have hope, you have to have trials first.
You do.
Right? And then through trials, will shape character. And then from character, that's when you have hope, right? We have to go through that fire in order to get to where God wants us to be, in order to get where we need to be, in order to get to be that man that is a great husband, the good dad, the things that we all want to be.
Well, we all want the testimonies, but you got to have the test.
Yeah.
None of us want to go through the test, but we want
I don't like the test either. I didn't like the test. I think.
And if God tells you we're going through this, we say, no, God, that's okay. I don't want this. But he knows that's what we need. But you were talking about the refining and seeing God. I mean, that's what refining, the refiner's fire or whatever, when they're refining gold.
Yeah.
How they knew it was ready was not stirring it or testing it. They looked, and if they could see the reflection of their face, it was ready. If they couldn't see the reflection of their face, they had to burn more stuff off. That's what God does to us. He goes, can I see myself? Nah, he still needs some more work. He's not reflecting me yet.
And remember that one book you gave me? By Cloud?
Oh, yes. That changed
by Henry
your life.
Cloud.
That changed your life.
And remember what he said about in order to build integrity In order to build integrity, the way they tested it with jets is the way they tested the integrity of the metal is the metal had to last in all environments. When it was freezing cold, when it was the fieriest time, the highest time, the fastest time, they had to prove the integrity of the metal only by trialing it in every possible outcome.
Well, and that's how God tests us. I mean, how are you supposed to help men if you don't have that integrity? I mean, you see so many people, you see them at church, they're all holy, but you see them in the week and you're like, what? But yet you want guys to follow these people. And that's why I think they have a saying that says Christianity is the biggest cause of atheism.
Yeah.
Because people say, well, you're a fake. You're not real, but you want me to be like you. That's what kept me away from God for a long time. It's like, you want me to be like you, but you're poor, you're broke, you're a liar, you're cheating, you're doing all this stuff. But on Sundays you look holy, and no.
You know, I see the same thing with some of my colleagues too. How they'll teach the kids, oh, you should, because I'm a psychologist, so I have colleagues be like, oh, this is the way you should treat your husband, this is the way you should parent, this is the way you should treat each other. But then when it comes to like how they treat me or their own people, they can't imbibe those same personality. They can't be nice to everybody. They can't handle rejection. They can't even work with others. You have that same concept of people just not being able to apply what they think they're good at.
Well, I was thinking about that one guy that's on TV, has his own TV show that helps people with marriage. But from my understanding, he's been married 8 times. He's helping people, for marriage. I'm like, are you kidding me? No.
And I think that's where we want to see we want to see integrity. If there's anything we can build as men of integrity, as men that can tolerate, that can handle pain, that can handle rejection, but that can not only handle it, but they can reshape it, take perspective with the Creator, and use that to become the men that they need to be. But let's talk about yours. I think that's going to take us into your story, sir.
My story.
So Glenn and I go way back in a million different ways.
We do. I remember from high school when he was one of the troublemakers.
And because I went to high school, me and his son grew up together.
Yes.
Nathan.
Yes, Nathan.
Nathan was 1 year younger than me, and then we even worked together at Albertson. So me and Nathan, we went to youth group together. We were pretty close. Well, you and I weren't close yet.
No, not at all.
But then before that, though, my mom went to high school with
your mom and my mom and my wife, we all graduated together. So we knew each other in high school. In fact, your mom and I, we were in the same driving class in high
school. Because, Glenn's was one of my mentors. That played a role in that. When I knew you had a relationship with my parents, with my mom that far, I was already like, all right, yeah, if my mom loves this guy for all these years, that means he's a man of integrity. That's part of the reason why I was like, I'm going to take you on. So me and Glenn, we started getting close about 5 years ago.
Yeah, well, Cal State, when you first started going there after you got your PhD.
And that was some hard times, dude.
You were a mess when you showed up there. I mean, can I tell? I mean,
yeah. Why not?
Well, I mean, because you were telling me you were on 2 or 3 different medications because of this.
Yeah.
And your second marriage wasn't going good and all this. I'm like, okay, well, I know you need God. But that's when I asked you about that book. If you read the 5 love languages, and you go, yeah.
Just have all the knowledge in the world.
Yeah, just like some smart academia person.
All the knowledge in the world.
And then I go, what love language is your wife? And you're like, huh? You gave me this blank look, and I'm like, go read it again. You're supposed to apply this stuff, not just know it. You got to be able to apply it.
And I think that's why.
And when you applied it, things started happening in your marriage, didn't they? Good things.
And that's why I want. You guys bought me in, so you and Tom bought me in so fast, is because you invested in one area that I wanted help, which was the woman that I wanted to rescue. And that when I did apply the love language, when I listened to you guys, when I listened to your correction, which was hard, that's not easy. We talk about it. I kind of say I like correcting, playing around, but no, nobody likes correcting.
Nobody likes it.
It's painful. But when somebody that loves you and respects you, and you respect them, gives it to you, that was the one thing that I saw immediately. I saw my wife's love language was acts of service. I was trying everything else.
Well, you were trying your love language on her.
And the moment I switched it, boom, fast forward 5 years, and now we have a beautiful relationship with 2 kids, a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, which is pretty spicy, right? But that's part of our story, and I think that's where, I want to lead into now. Me and Glenn, we go way back. So that's why this is a fun conversation for me. We even played golf for a whole year during COVID.
Well, just so we could talk and mentor.
We spent like 2 hours together.
And if I remember, almost every round, at some point we would forget and walk by our balls because we were so deep in conversation. Oh, whoops, we gotta go back and hit the ball. But if you noticed when we were talking, I was bringing up the Bible. I always bring up verses, but I was giving you books. And most of these books were of smart people because I knew you're a smart guy. So you're not going to listen to somebody that you don't believe in. So like McLeod, the guy you're talking about, you found out he's got a PhD in this. You're like, okay, this guy's got some credibility. I'm going to listen to what he said. Then you found this guy's a Christian. You're like, whoa. Yeah. And so that's how it helped you. Now, I might not do that with everybody because some people, that wouldn't be right. And that goes back to the verse at the end of Matthew that says, go make disciples, of all people, baptizing all this, teaching them. Well, a lot of people think that means go make Christians, and it doesn't mean make baby Christians. It means go make students. Yeah. So I was trying to make you a student of the Word, showing you the Word can help. And after a while, because I know you didn't like the Bible all that much at first, you're like,
I had a lot, and I still have a lot of struggles, but I love it. But I still have a lot of struggles, let's be real, but I love it.
And you're finding it's got some answers for you.
It has all the answers.
Yes.
I'll say that.
It does.
I still have issues with it. I love it. It has all the answers.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things in here I don't understand, and that's the one thing that you being so smart gets to us, because you're like, but what about this, God? It's like, but if I knew the answer to that, I'd be like, God, sorry, I don't have the answer to that. But it doesn't make anything that's in here, less true.
And I think that's one thing that I would say that I took away from our time is making disciples. Making, in another word for that is just mentoring.
Yes.
So now at the junior high, flash forward from the golfing times, 3 years, now I'm mentoring many junior high boys in the same way. And really, it's just what you did, just spending time with me.
Well, you got to spend time, but you spend time so you can get to know what your interests are. And that's what making a student, I'm going to use Brad over in Ventura. His daughter is big into jiu-jitsu. I mean, does it 5 days a week. She was second place in worlds.
Wow, dang.
But
oh my God.
One, you don't do that if you're not interested.
Yeah.
So they found an interest, now they're pushing it. So what you do to get people to the Word is you find out what they're interested in, and then you apply the Word to what they're interested in, and now you got their attention. But if I give the Word to you the way that I would do to somebody else, you're like, doesn't matter. But because you're a different person, so that's where the relationships come in. When you get to know them, now you know what affects them, what their likes and dislikes are, and then you use that and show them, hey, you could be a cowboy and you could be somebody else, and you could be somebody else. It applies to everybody, but you show them how it applies to what they're wanting.
And I think through that time, one thing is you pour into somebody, you fill somebody, you have relationship equity, you fill their cup up. And once you fill that cup up, in those conversations, this is one thing I'll say about Glenn. It's a good idea if he approves of it, because he will tell you if it's a bad idea.
I did that a couple of times.
He will not agree to everything.
I will not lie about it.
He will not agree. If he thinks it's a bad idea, he won't be like, yeah, maybe you should rework it. He's going to tell you.
And I'll give you reasons why I think that. Right? And then you can take what you want, but yeah.
And that was our relationship. Yeah. It was a lot of, I would say you were my iron. You were definitely sharpening me because you didn't agree with everything I said at all.
Well, see, and that's the one thing to be a mentor to somebody. You have to make sure that they don't intimidate you.
Yeah.
If that person intimidates you, you can't be a mentor to them.
That is good.
Because you're afraid to speak up.
That is good.
But I mean, people don't realize that. I mean, most people couldn't be a mentor to their boss because it's like, oh, he could fire me. Yeah. So you're not going to tell the truth.
Dang, that's a good rule right there. So I think this is where I want to now go back, right? I feel like we've explained our relationship, and I love that relationship. Now I want to use that and go back to talk about your story with you and how you served and your times of fire, but also your good times. And I think we were talking, and again, it's shared information. You brought up a time in 1997. That's when it all started?
That's when Tom and I first met, and I probably started going to Valley about 96. So, I mean, it was long after that.
Uh-huh.
And Ron was going to start a church up there, and he put out to the congregation, I need a youth pastor. I need someone to talk to the youth up there. And I prayed, and I'm like, well, I could do that, because the church I'd before, I was doing that. And like I was telling you, third service, I went to him, knocked on it. That's when you can still get to his door. And he opens, and I go, I'd like to volunteer. And he goes, well, I guess that's you, because you're the only one that's knocked on my door and volunteered. And then they sent Tom the first week just to make sure I knew what I was doing.
And what city were you guys in?
Porterville.
Oh, and I remember going as a kid. So 1997.
And I was driving up there every Sunday. I drove up there and back. So the service started up there at 7. So I was leaving here, 5:30, getting back at 10 o'clock.
And that's Blood Alley too.
Yes.
That's what the 65's called, Blood Alley.
Yes.
I did 5 years of commuting there.
Went up there a few times with your dad, a few times with Tom.
Oh my God. And then that transitioned into something else.
Well, that transitioned. I mean, I've always wanted to help. I've been kind of a helper trying to do stuff.
And is that when you and Tom started vibing?
Well, I mean, a few years after that, I was doing stuff, but I'm like, man, I want to get more involved in the church. And that's when I was praying, because I have a job now that I can basically do what I want. And I prayed. I go, God, I'm doing a lot in L.A. and Frisco. I'm out of town a lot. I can't do stuff during the week. I want to be able to do more for the church. So he got me a job. I fought God on it, but got it. And that's when I said, okay, now I can do more. And I volunteered with one of the other pastors, said, hey, if you need help, I'm available. And he goes, nah, I'm fine. Well, Tom heard the conversation and goes, well, if he don't want you, I can use you. And after that, we had about 20 years of
that's how it
crazy
started.
Stuff.
That is all.
And I would tell people, if you want to help somebody and get to know them, you got to be there in all the circumstances. For Tom, whenever we had something to do, I was there at the beginning, and I was the last one to leave.
Yeah.
Because he would tell me, you don't got to go. You can leave now. And I'm like, no, you're still here. But that's how you get to know somebody.
And that's
you don't play at it. A lot of times people play at it, and they help for a little while. Okay, I'm gone. Well, you don't get to know that person.
This is why there's a term called the Glen Allen, right? Because what Pastor Tom's taught me is, especially for paid staff, right? What they're looking for is for somebody like Glenn, because the church can never go by itself, and it's not supposed to be ran, and it's not supposed to be ran on paid staff, right? And I think that's something that me and you have in common.
Well, see, and what that means is, because I was with Tom so much, I knew how he thought. I knew, what he's going to do. Yeah. So there are a lot of situations that came up that Tom wasn't around to ask, but I'm like, okay, what would Tom do? He would do this. I was right every time but one time. And that one time, it was a personal thing. It had nothing to do, because I wasn't wrong on it.
Let's blame the other person.
No, it had nothing to do with that. It had the way he kind of wanted to do something.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong with the way. And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that somebody else, his higher up, wanted it done that way. Because I don't think Tom would have done it that way, but that's what was asked him to do.
But I think that's what you're explaining, though, is when you spend time with someone.
Well, you get to know what their likes and dislikes and how they're going to answer stuff.
And, that's where, because who's similar to that is Tony Aguilar from my dad. Spends time with my dad.
Oh, yeah, he knows your dad.
He knows my dad better than me sometimes.
When they've traveled, so with Tom, I've taken trips down to Mexico, to Africa, and different places.
So once he picked you up after that pastor said, I don't need it.
Yeah.
Where did you guys start there? Was that Visalia?
Visalia happened didn't happen too long after that. But it's just whatever he needed to do. If he had to do something around the church, if we had to do something late, or we had to do, we used to have the thing on Halloween,
Oh my God, don't bring that up. Hallelujah Fair. Yeah. The Hallelujah Fair.
But we had all this stuff. If Tom had something he had to do, I'm like, okay, I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was there helping him out. Hey, what do you need?
Man, I remember being there late those nights. Those are struggle.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, so that's where, so you were volunteering, you were at the church, and then that led you guys to go into Visalia.
Yeah, well, when they opened up, I think they opened up 6 or 7 locations, and they were all over the place. Every place but Visalia was done within a month or two.
What do you mean by done? They just kind of...
Well, they closed it up because their thinking was that we're going to go there for a month or two and pick some leaders and have them keep going with it.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
And so when Tom told me we were going to Visalia, he said, we'll be there for about 6 weeks max, and we'll be back. Well, okay. I mean, I don't know, what was it, 7, 8 years or 10 years? I don't know how long it was.
Oh,
but
man.
we were still there.
And is that how you met Brad?
No, well, I met Brad because we called him to be the youth pastor up there. We knew we needed a youth pastor to make the youth grow. I had one guy in mind. Tom had heard about Brad, and he goes, I think I want Brad. Well, we asked Brad, and Brad goes, well, I don't know if I can help you because I'm doing the juvenile hall every Sunday morning. Yeah. And then about a week later, he goes, you know what, I can give you one Sunday a week. We're like, right on. Within a week or two, he goes, you know what, that's my ministry. And he built it from scratch, not living in Visalia, driving up there on Thursday nights and Sundays.
Wow.
I think he built the group up to like 70, 80 kids in just a few months.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, then he got so big and stuff that the pastor in Bakersfield says, no, I want him running my youth here.
Yeah.
And then it kind of went down.
And that's when, and Brad's story, so I had Brad on a few weeks ago.
I know, yeah.
And we'll get into his story. It's going to wrap back out to Brad and you. So then you went to Visalia. You spent your 7 years there. Yeah. Then what happened after that?
Well, then I came back to Bakersfield. I mean, we shut down. And that's where you got to realize that God can do stuff if you're willing to step out. Because we'd been back only for a few weeks, and all of a sudden one Wednesday night I was telling Tom, hey, Tom, how can I help you? And he looks at me and he goes, I need some help in CE. He says my eyes rolled back to the back of my head. And he's like, okay, Glenn, you don't got to do it. And I go, no,
explain what CE is.
The children's education
of the little kids.
These were like kindergartens through like fifth graders or something like that. And I like dealing with adults. They're a lot easier to have conversations.
I don't see you working with kids.
I didn't either. But I prayed about it. That next morning I called Tom. I go, I got 3 or 4 verses. I'm fired up. Let's go. And he goes, wow, I've never seen anybody change that fast. I'm like, I was praying, and I did that for about 6 months. So, I mean, it's not like, well, but you got to realize, I mean, I said, Tom, I want to help. When you say you want to help, you don't only help with the stuff you want to do. Yeah. There's a lot of times you're going to have stuff you don't want to do, but that's when you're helping.
And then where did that lead you after that?
Where did it lead me after
take
that?
me to Cal State. How did Cal State happen?
Oh, well, Cal State's happening during all this.
Oh, okay, okay.
Cal State happened right after we got back from Visalia.
Okay.
But for the first 6 months, I was over there helping CE.
Wow, so you weren't in at Cal State
I
yet.
wasn't out there at the very beginning.
Oh.
I was there to help, and then about 6 months into it.
How did you feel about that?
I was fine, because I told you, God, you know.
Boy, you're a beast.
But after about 6 months, it's like, Tom, I think I'm done. He goes, yeah, no, you're done. Come on over. And then we were over there and growing things. And I don't know if it's just my personality, but, I mean, I get there, and I don't care who's leading, but, I mean, if you're not leading, I'm jumping in, you know, and I expect things to happen. And that's one thing I guess I'm known for. If you tell me that something is going to need to get done.
He's going to pull the Glen Allen. He'll take over.
Well, if you tell me something needs to get done, I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes my methods might be the most orthodox, but, I mean, I'm going to get it done, and they all know. If you tell me to do something, it's going to get done.
Hey, those are the men you love, though.
They are, because you all want somebody like that in your life.
Well, it's reliable.
But yeah, because you tell somebody to do it, you're going to do it. You don't got to worry back and go, oh, I told you to do this. What happened? It's 2 weeks and nothing's happened. Well, no.
So you're at how long? So you're at Cal State
for about 10 years.
Wow. And
we finally shut down Cal State when COVID happened.
How was that experience at Cal State from the beginning? How was it when you started? Was it easy? Was it fun?
Oh, it was fun because you make it fun, and that's where the relationships come in.
Tell me.
Well, I mean, when you know people, I mean, when you go out with your friends and do something, are you having fun?
Oh, a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Making fun of each other, joking around.
So these are friends that you're doing ministry with, so it's fun. I mean, you joke around and do stuff, but it's fun.
How big was the church when it started?
I don't know, 40 people, 50, something like that. I mean, small.
And then what? So how?
I mean, I think we got up to at least 300 people, if not more.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
So, I mean, we're doing a couple services there and trying to find bigger places to meet.
And, you know, there's so many people that I see now at Valley Bible. The great people. I think I'm going to have a guy later on named Mike Green.
I love Mike Green.
Oh, I know. Isn't he a great dude, right? Do you think the Mike Greens would exist at the Valley Bible
now? They would not.
CSUB?
Well, see, and that's why I don't know where to say and step on stuff.
Well, let's not step too much.
They were run differently at Cal State than they were at the main campus. So we didn't have as much oversight, I guess.
So what were you able to? How were you able to operate? What was it? What were you able to do within that?
Well, we didn't have, for the most part, people telling us we couldn't do something or you had to do it this way.
So you were just free.
We were pretty free to do what we wanted to and make the relationships. There was a lot of people, they liked going to Cal State. They liked the message, but they really didn't want to go to main campus. And they found that out when they tried to do man caves. And at first they told us to do man caves at main campus. People from Cal State wouldn't come over there. And it wasn't because they didn't like main campus. It's just Cal State has a different type of people. And they're like, after talking to a couple of them, they were scared to go to that side of town. Okay, that's fine. I grew up on that side of town, so I'm fine. But I can understand, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
That's a bad neighborhood, and they didn't want to go. So when we started having our man cave at Cal State, it started growing.
Yeah.
Our man cave got out of hand.
And I think that's where, one of the most important things about mentoring, discipling.
Yeah, well, that's getting to know that you're, the people you're mentoring.
And it has to be relational.
It does have to be related. And you got to be, in mentoring relationships, you got to be open. Because we've took each other a lot of our faults and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, okay.
You get vulnerable, man.
Well,
oh, man. You've seen me cry. You've seen me cry a few times, huh?
Yes. But I remember one of the things where we made some inroads was that I had this doctor. He's a big doctor here in town. And he always went, but relationship-wise, he was there, but he wasn't. And then one time in a man cave, Tom had me talk for about 5 minutes about, my early walk. And when this guy found out I'd had 2 DUIs, he's like, and when I sat down, I was sitting there, he goes, really? When was your last one? I told him, he goes, well, mine was about a couple months after that. But we had an instant connection there.
Yeah.
And so off of something that wasn't good,
yeah,
it made us a connection where now we knew each other. Now it's like, you're real. Okay, I thought you were just fake. That would happen at main campus. I remember coming one time, there was a whole group of people. I needed one guy to do something for me. So as they saw me walking up, they all got quiet, they're like, oh, okay. And so I got my guy to do stuff. And afterwards, when church was over, I go, so what was going on? He goes, well, they were all talking about getting drunk last night and drinking. Oh. And then you came up and I go, ooh. And they go, hey, quiet. He won't understand. And I go, you tell your friends, I don't understand. I've had 2 DUIs, but I had known nothing about drinking. And they're like, what? And I'm like, we all got a past.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about serving God is we all have a past.
Now seeing that, Cal State, putting in all those years, seeing all that growth, having all those relationships. Now where are you at with your mentoring process? And now where does God have you?
I'm over in Ventura helping Brad.
So the one guy that you had start volunteering 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, now I'm over there helping him out. I actually mentored him for a while. We still get together probably once a month and talk about things, run stuff.
So the mentoring still continued. It paused and it still continued
over there. And then I got some of his young pastors and people over there that I talked to also.
So now you're mentoring who? Brad, you're helping you.
I tell Brad. Well, you got Shane over there.
And then
I just got off the phone with Shane before I came here.
So mentoring is his pastors.
Yeah.
And mentoring who else?
Well, then there's just some young guys that every once in a while I talk to. So. Over there, it's harder for me to get the relationships going because I live here and I go over there. So I go over there every Wednesday night to go over there for intercessory prayer. And then I do a Bible study Thursday morning. And we're just getting that going. And then I come back and then I'll go over there on Saturday and come back Sunday. But on the weekends, I usually go every other weekend because, I got 5 grandkids still live here, and, family and all this, birthdays.
Oh, you're having fun then, huh?
Well, no, I don't like driving back and forth. I'm building a house over there one day. So. but that makes it tough for the relationship because you need to be there in all the moments, and there's a lot of moments I can't be there because I have another life too, business and everything. So I see that's tougher over there.
But I think you still see God working.
I see God working all the time. He's doing incredible things.
And all those plans. And I think now you see the fruits of your labor over there.
Oh, yeah, I do. Well, I think Brad would admit this, but when I first started working with him, one time he looks at me and he goes, Glenn, you got the faith of a little child. I don't have that. I am not there. I can't do some of this stuff you're doing. I'm like, okay. But now, woo, he's out there. He's crazy. To the fact that I'm a financial planner, advisor. So, I know about money. Well, he's doing things that we're trying to build a place over there, a sanctuary, and get it built up. And I'm looking at the books. I'm like, Brad, this looks horrible because we're spending more than we're bringing in. We still got money in the bank, but we're spending. He goes, hey, Glenn, if I see a need that God gives me, I'm taking care of it. I ain't worried about what's in the bank. And I'm like,
wow.
So he checked me on that, and I go, wow, you're right. But it's hard for me because I'm on the other side. Let's take care of finances.
Yeah.
But God's blessing us because we're stepping out and God keeps giving us money. I mean, just this Sunday, we're doing something down in Mexico down there, and we're going to build something, and it's going to cost about $5,000. So Brad just mentioned that, hey, we're trying to do this. We need $5,000. We don't have the money. Well, after the first service, somebody came, hey, my mom just died. I got some money, and I've been wanting to do something down in Mexico, and here it is.
Wow.
That's how God keeps
God
taking
showing
care.
out
That's how God keeps taking care of us.
non-stop.
That's how God keeps taking care of us.
Glenn, you have a beautiful story. That's a blast. It's already been 30 minutes, my man. Look at that. I told you. All right. Let's leave us one last thing you can leave our viewers.
Well, I'm going to leave because I was thinking about that. And the thing, a lot of times people, when you mentor them, they usually have issues with something. And you've heard me say this before, but any problem you have, it's because you have an unmet expectation.
Ooh.
And that's what I learned from Tom, Pastor Tom. But I mean, you think about everything in your life that's bugging you or you can't stand or something like that, it's because you have an expectation that's not met.
Ooh.
Marriage problems, it's an expectation that hasn't been met.
Ooh.
Business, anything out there, it's because you have an expectation that hasn't been met. All right, so now you got to deal with that. Well, that's where getting into the Word and praying, God can help you take care of some of that. And tell you that, it's not all about you, it's about others. And if you take care of others, you'll get taken care of.
Boom.
But, I mean, so many times. And then, because I wrote down, and then the other thing I would put as the last thing, a lot of times people are always asking, hey, can I do this or can I not do that? Because a lot of times the Bible's not clear on certain things.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, well, the Word says that if when Christ comes back and you're in the middle of doing something and you're embarrassed, that means you probably shouldn't be doing it.
That's a good check.
And so if you're looking at things and, well, I think it's okay. It doesn't say I couldn't do this. Well, that's fine. But if you were doing it and Christ came back at that moment, would you be like, oh, my God, I'm sorry. Well, then don't do it. I mean, there's a perfect check. It doesn't have to say that in the Bible.
And I think that's what we want to bring is we want to know that you guys here, like we want you guys to be like Glenn. We want to have people here that are serving, that are discipling, that are being discipled, that are pushing forward, but are also being men of the Word. Also being men of integrity. And I think that's one thing that we want to leave you guys with. Glenn, thank you for being on. This is a blast. All right, everyone, we'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Peace, some chicken grease.